What is up? What is up, YouTube? How y'all doing, man? Hey, check this out. Without a doubt, you'll never look at Mary J. Blige the same way after this. Now, I was not a Mary J. Blige fan. Let me start off by saying that. I was not really a Mary J. Blige fan. I was a fan of Bad Boy Records. Because Mary J. Blige was signed to Bad Boy, I started liking her. I wasn't even looking at the females. Her, Faith Evans, Lil' Kim. I wasn't looking at none of the females, but they were signed to Bad Boy. Escape, Total. What is it? Was it Total? Escape. Oh my God, I'm getting real old, y'all. I think it was Total. Off the Hook, Total. I did some production and work and everything with Total. I worked with Faith Evans. Never did anything with Mary J. Blige or anybody else with Bad Boy, except for Shy. My team, my people I was working with did some stuff with Shy. Long story. I probably played a bass line on one track that they deleted. You know, I'm just giving it to you straight with no chasers. But I studied here's the thing. When I was learning how to do hip hop, when I was learning how to turn music into money, into this music industry that I bought my house off of doing music full time, I was a small crumb, but I was getting it. I was turning music into money, paying my house, bought a house off of doing music full time. And Mary J. Blige and Bad Boy was one of the record labels, one of the artists I studied. I didn't really, and I studied her because her music was the end sound. Her music was the end thing. Does that make sense? I didn't like her, but it's not what I like. It's what I need to study to make music that people love. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to y'all. I like Faith Evans. I thought she was the shit. Yeah. I like Biggie. I wasn't a Tupac fan. I never did like Tupac. But that's personally what I'm not saying I had to study Tupac music because I took the anyway, I don't know the words. Long story short, Mary J. Blige and all of them was into some crooked stuff with Diddy. I never knew that. Never even thought about that. Never even thought about anything negative. It's hard to be a positive person and see negativity. All I saw was good in everybody. So you never look at Mary J. Blige the same. Lord, I never seen this, Lord. Lord, I never seen this. I don't know. Only thing I know is Diddy's in jail and done did some shit. Diddy done did some shit. So we're gonna play this and hope that Diddy
bullshit
does not jump into Mary J. Blige. Anyway, hit that subscribe button, man. Hit that bell. Hey, let's check this out. Here we go.
And I can't be without you, baby. I wouldn't change my life,
Most of the times I was just depressed and didn't want to live.
I remember feeling literally right before it happened, just could not believe this person was going to do this to me.
To the world, she was the queen of hip-hop soul, a once-in-a-generation voice wrapped in power and platinum records.
There's only one Mary J. Blige. So they can run out and get how many girls, how many girl groups, and turn their hat backwards and fix their hair like mine, but they'll never be me.
But to those who truly knew her, she was a little girl from Yonkers, trying to survive her neighborhood, her family, and her own trauma.
I was mad at him, mad at everything, mad at the world, and you reach a point where it's like, nobody loves me.
Addiction followed her through the industry. So did heartbreak, so did violence.
Because I felt like I'd rather stay and take a beating than to let him go. Because I felt like if I let him go, like I was gonna die. You know that love where you feel like, gosh, I lose my mind if he.
Then there's Diddy, her
No, we don't know what you're talking about. We would like to know.
Gonna let him go. Because I felt like if I let him go, like I was gonna die. You know that love where you feel like, gosh, I lose my mind if he.
Then there's Diddy, her mentor, her protector, some even might say her problem.
Because he was a huge inspiration. When I came in the game, I didn't like myself. I didn't want success. I was afraid of it. But why?
Damn, man. Who even? Dude, we didn't even know all this was going on. Back in the Mary J. Blige days? Come on, man. Nobody knew all this stuff was going on. Shit.
Watching him, he wanted it so bad, and he was it.
She was there for the rise and maybe the reckoning. Some say she saw it all. Others say she helped cover it up. And now, fans are asking, was she ever really innocent? Mary Jane Blige was born on January 11th, 1971, in the Fordham Hospital in the Bronx, New York. But it wasn't the Bronx that raised her. It was Yonkers, specifically the 𝗗𝗡𝗡𝗡𝗡 housing projects, an aging concrete jungle that locals simply called Slow Bomb. The nickname wasn't cute, it was a warning. Gunshots echoed like doorbells. Domestic violence wasn't whispered about. It was screamed through paper-thin walls. And the only thing more common than a broken window was a broken spirit. Mary was raised by her mother, 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗅 Blige, a hard-working nurse with a powerful record collection. 𝗗𝗢 was obsessed with the greats, Gladys Knight, Aretha Franklin, Chaka Khan. She'd blast their voices through cheap speakers, hoping their strength might rub off on her daughters. But 𝗗𝗢 had her own demons. She drank to cope with the pain of a marriage that had imploded. Mary's father, Thomas Blige, had left when she was just 4 years old, a Vietnam veteran battling his own trauma. He was a jazz musician, but music couldn't keep him grounded. He'd pop in and out of their lives like a ghost until one day he just stopped coming.
Mad at him, mad at everything, mad at the world. And you reach a point where it's like, nobody loves me.
At home, love was conditional. Affection was rare, but outside was worse. Mary would later say she never saw a woman in 𝗗𝗡𝗡𝗡𝗡 who wasn't a She'd walk past women with black eyes, busted lips, sometimes barefoot, running out of apartments with shirts half torn, screaming for help. And no one came. It became normal, expected, and eventually, Mary stopped flinching when she heard screams at night. The trauma didn't wait for adulthood.
Can you imagine Mary J. Blige looked like the most millionaire woman? Oh my God. And now you understanding this type of background of her. You follow what I'm saying? It's almost like it's almost like you actually just look at the star and you wish you was her. And then when you start hearing the backstory, you be like, damn, I better take my tail back to work. Hey boss, how you doing? You wanna go back? Hey boss, can I get your coffee this morning? Yeah. Think about the abuse and stuff. I remember on the radio hearing, I'm riding down the street and they said Mary J. Blige, it was $1 million or something. I don't know the exact number, but I remember $1 million in back taxes. She owed millions in back taxes or something like that. The word million and back taxes was together. How about that?
It became normal, expected, and eventually, Mary stopped flinching when she heard screams at night. The trauma didn't wait for adulthood. At just 5 years old, Mary was assaulted at a family friend's house during a party. A moment that shattered her sense of safety before it ever had the chance to grow. When I was 5 years old, I was and just, I remember feeling, literally right before it happened, I just could not believe that this person was going to do this to me. Blige explained. That thing followed me all my life. The shame of thinking was my fault. It led me to believe I wasn't worth anything. She kept it quiet for years, silenced by shame, buried under guilt, convinced it was somehow her fault. That secret metastasized, quietly growing into a lifelong wound. She began to believe she was worthless, that she had nothing to offer, that maybe she deserved the pain. Still, there was one place she felt safe: church. Mary found refuge in gospel choirs, where her voice started to crack through the pain. Singing became a way to exhale, a release valve for pressure she didn't know how to talk about. At school talent shows, she sang with her eyes closed, not because she was shy, but because it was the only way to disappear. When she was 7, she sang "Reunited" by Peaches and Herb at her elementary school. The crowd clapped, but Mary didn't feel joy. She felt exposed. As she got older, she built armor, baggy jeans, Timbs, a hat turned backwards. She wasn't dressing like the R&B stars on TV, she was dressing for war.
Because when, I've been through so much as a child and a teenager, I just started to turn, not that I was a guy, I just wore baggier jeans and Timberlands and hat turned backwards so I won't, be so revealing. It took me a very long time to even wear makeup and tight clothes.
Every day she walked through the projects was a test. You had to look hard, sound hard, be hard. Otherwise, you got jumped, robbed, or worse. She fought often, with boys, with girls, even with her own family. It was survival, not rebellion. But even as the world hardened her, the music softened something inside.
Even as a little girl, I had insecurities, and I was always blue and always sad, but singing made me feel free. And that's what I had. That's what I held on to.
See, that's the difference between, y'all don't, as artists, as listeners, y'all don't understand what artists go through. Her escape, her soul, when she sung, every note, every vibration of sound coming out of her was her reaching so deep into the pain she lived through as a poor in the ghettos. You follow what I'm saying? The negativity that was that's locked in her soul. Her escape. That's talent. That's where the talent lies right there. Just because you can sing, maybe I should sound like this. I should do this, do that. No. Your soul, it's almost like you need X amount of pain to be great. If you don't have no pain, that's why I keep saying Puffy kids, they don't have no. Tupac and Biggie had it because they lived it, like Mary J Blige. Yeah.
Had insecurities, and I was always blue and always sad, but singing made me feel free. And that's what I had. That's what I held on to.
Mary would harmonize with her sister. She'd sit on the windowsill, humming through broken blinds, making lullabies out of sirens and chaos. She didn't dream of being famous. She dreamed of escaping. And in 1988, she'd unknowingly take the first step out. Not with a record deal, but with a karaoke booth in a Westchester mall. It was supposed to be nothing. Just another hangout at the Galleria Mall in Westchester. Mary was 17, newly dropped out of high school, juggling call center shifts as a 411 operator, and doing what she could to outrun the shadows of her past. That day, someone dared her to try the mall's karaoke booth, a novelty tucked between food courts and kiosks. She hesitated, then stepped in. She picked Anita Baker's Caught Up in the Rapture, pressed record, and let go. Not because she thought anyone would hear it, but because she needed to. That recording, raw, aching, soulful, was never meant to go anywhere, but someone passed it to someone else. Eventually, it reached Jeff Redd, a rising artist at Uptown Records, and just like that, Mary's voice left the mall. It hit the ears of Andre Harrell, the founder of Uptown, and for the first time, someone in the industry didn't want to fix her. They wanted to feel her. Andre didn't hear polish. He didn't hear training. He heard pain. He heard a girl who had lived through something, who had earned her voice. voice. She wasn't a diva, not in the traditional sense. She had no glam, no smiley interviews, no pedigree. What she had was truth, jagged and uncut. So Uptown gave her a shot. No big signing bonus, no celebration, just a chance. She joined the label's artist development pipeline, singing backup for Jeff Redd, doing features, learning the ropes. She was still living in the projects, still battling depression, still drinking, still partying, still ducking the trauma that trailed her like smoke. But now, she was recording. In those early sessions, Mary didn't know how to act like a star, and she didn't pretend. She wore what she always wore: baggy jeans, Timberlands, backwards hats. She didn't sing above the pain, she sang through it, and that authenticity threw the entire label into confusion. Uptown wasn't sure how to sell her. She wasn't Whitney. She wasn't Janet. She wasn't what R&B had known, but someone else was watching, a new intern at the label, ambitious, loud, and obsessed with building legends. Shawn Puffy Combs.
For Jodeci tonight, Mary J Blige, and Father MC. And all put together by first this man in the middle here, and then he's passing on to, I guess, his son, protege. Yes.
By the time Shawn Puffy Combs officially stepped into Mary's orbit, the walls at Uptown Records were already vibrating with her voice. He'd been watching her from the sidelines. This quiet girl from Yonkers who refused to play by the rules, who didn't shrink or smile on cue, who sang like every note was pulled out of an old scar.
Wow, man, that's some juicy stuff right here. I ain't never seen no Mary J Blige story put together like this. This hat right here, I like this. Take on, man. I know about Uptown. Heavy D and all them was on Uptown. Uptown.
Puffy was just an intern then, but even interns could see a storm coming. He approached Mary differently than others did. He didn't ask her to sing like someone else. He didn't try to wrap her in sequins or smooth her edges. He wanted her raw. He wanted the girl in Tim's, the one whose voice cracked because she meant it. Puffy believed that vulnerability wasn't a flaw, it was a weapon. And in Mary J Blige, he found the perfect one. Together, they didn't just make songs, they made a genre. Puffy began producing tracks that fused R&B vocals with rugged hip-hop beats, heavy bass, snapping snares, street soul. Mary wasn't crooning over orchestras like the singers who came before her. She was singing over drum loops that rattled like gunfire in the projects she came from. Her voice wasn't clean, it was real, and that's what made it unstoppable. In 1992, What's the 411 dropped.
What's the 411, hun?
What's the 411?
The title was a nod to Mary's time as a 411 operator, her former job, and a symbol of how she'd always been the girl who listened before she spoke. But now, the world was listening to her. Tracks like You Remind Me and Real Love weren't just hits, they were declarations. This wasn't just R&B, this was hip-hop soul, and Mary J Blige wasn't just a new voice, she was a movement. But behind the mic, she was still spiraling. The studio sessions were chaotic. Mary was drinking heavily, often recording through hangovers, sometimes breaking down mid-take. Puffy pushed her hard. He was relentless, demanding. But Mary, for all her pain, showed up every time. She poured her trauma into the tracks, the heartbreak, the self-hate, the shame she still carried from childhood. It was all there, tucked inside every verse. Fans didn't just hear the songs, they felt them. Mary.
See, the thing about it is, people don't realize that you have a professional side, that's Puffy. You got a pain and suffering side, that's Mary J Blige. And you believe in the professional side so much that he's jumping on you. He's your coach. He's your mentor. He's the one that's pushing you. So you want to change. You want to get out of this negative life. You want to get out of this demon. You want to get out. You want out. So you gotta listen to the coach. You ain't got nothing else. What else you got? But you gotta believe in the coach. The coach is gonna sit here and tell you how to get out of this thing. And it fucking worked. Excuse me.
The heartbreak, the self-hate, the shame she still carried from childhood. It was all there, tucked inside every verse. Fans didn't just hear the songs, they felt them. Mary was singing their pain too. Black girls who had never seen themselves in the polished perfection of pop stars finally had someone who sounded like them, hurt like them, And despite the chaos, What's the 411 sold over 3 million copies, rewriting the soundscape of 90s R&B. But success didn't soothe the wound. Not yet. If anything, it deepened it. Mary had escaped the projects, but not her demons, not her anger, not the ghosts in her voice. And as Puffy's star rose alongside hers, so did the pressure, so did the cracks. Because if What's the 411 was Mary's introduction, her next album would be her exorcism. And if Puffy reshaped Mary J. Blige's image, it was 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦 who fractured her heart. The moment they were paired for their duet, I Don't Want to Do Anything, on the What's the 411 remix album, fans noticed the tension, a raw electricity that sparked even through the speakers. At the time, 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦's group, Jodeci, was redefining male vulnerability in R&B. Boots, tattoos, gospel runs over street slang. Mary's pain met 𝗗𝗢𝗡's rasp in perfect harmony. But what felt like chemistry in the booth became volatility behind the scenes. Their relationship was intense from the start. Mary, still processing the trauma of her childhood and the sudden glare of fame, fell hard. 𝗗𝗢𝗡, known for his wild energy, matched her in chaos. Together, they were passionate and combustible. Friends called them the Ike and Tina of the 90s, and while that comparison might have seemed flippant at first, it wasn't long before the headlines started catching up to the whispers.
He was abusive to her, right?
Yeah, she when we was together, she was jumping on the floor like it was at 𝗗𝗢𝗡, and it was a room service bringing us food.
She took it all, she said. Every insult, every blow, every betrayal. Because despite the fame, despite the crowd screaming her name, she still didn't love herself. She thought she deserved it. She stayed, hoping he'd change, believing that this was the cost of being loved.
I felt like I'd rather stay and take a beating than to let him go. Because I felt like if I let him go, like I was going to die. You know that love where you feel like, gosh, I'll lose my mind if he leaves.
The relationship spiraled into a toxic pattern. There were good times, no doubt. Laughter, performances, the illusion of being music's hottest couple. But underneath, Mary was unraveling. The trauma she'd buried for years, the abandonment, the addiction, all began to surface. She started drinking more, using more. The substances weren't about fun anymore. They were anesthesia. There's a
Using what more? What was she using more? Aha.
Abandonment, the addiction, all began to surface. She started drinking more, using more. The substances weren't about fun anymore. They were anesthesia. There's a story, never fully confirmed but whispered in industry circles, of a night in Atlanta. Mary, furious and drunk, allegedly burst into a party 𝗗𝗢𝗡 was attending. She was barefoot, her hair disheveled, screaming. Puff had to pull her into a room to calm her down. That's where she was emotionally, spiraling, untethered, and publicly unraveling. And still, somehow, performing through it all. Professionally, she was soaring. Real Love was a smash. You Remind Me had gone gold. She was becoming the queen of hip-hop soul in real time. But behind the curtain, Mary was a woman at war with herself, fighting to prove she was strong, even while being broken to pieces behind closed doors. The relationship with 𝗗𝗢𝗡 would limp on, off and on, through most of the mid-90s. Mary later said the final straw wasn't a punch or a fight. It was an interview. In 1995, while in the UK, 𝗗𝗢𝗡 was asked if he was marrying Mary. He laughed, shrugged, said said it wasn't serious. Mary was watching, and just like that, the fantasy shattered. She realized she'd been clinging to someone who never planned to hold her back, and worse, she'd built parts of her career around that illusion. But this chapter wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about the beginning of Mary confronting herself. The music started to shift, her writing got darker, her performances more raw. This wasn't What's the 411 Mary anymore. This was the My Life era, and what came next was the storm before the rebirth.
That was the hey. My bad, y'all. Hold up. That was the joint, son. That was my shit. That was my shit. That was my joint right there.
This was the My Life era, and what came next was the
life,
storm
my life,
before
my
the
life,
rebirth. Underneath the soulful vocals and lush sampling, it was a diary of depression, addiction, and untreated trauma. She was drinking heavily, not at parties, but alone. Cognac for breakfast, champagne in the studio. She'd bring entire bottles into interviews just to feel numb, and the followed. Coke lines blurred with studio takes. There were sessions she couldn't even remember. During one particularly dark moment in her apartment, Mary later revealed, the problem had snowballed into this thing that was bigger than me. It was bigger than me, and it was definitely gonna me. So I was like, this is it, and let's go. And I remember sitting on my bed. I swear, I don't know what death feels like, but I felt like my spirit was trying to leave my body, and I was crying, and I was going, please God, no, not now, I don't want this. I prayed like I remember saying a prayer. I said, God, send me someone to help me. And while everyone around her thought the album was genius, Puff included, Mary felt misunderstood. She wasn't just creating a vibe, she was documenting a descent. The beat to Be Happy might have felt warm, but her lyrics weren't masked. Some went like, how can I love somebody else if I can't love myself enough to know when it's time to let go? She was speaking directly about Casey. Their relationship was unraveling, riddled with arguments, physical abuse, and deep insecurity. He had reportedly proposed to her with a ring, only to publicly deny it on UK television days later. That moment broke her. The man she thought she'd marry, the man she protected, had humiliated her in front of millions. That was when 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦 entered the picture, a quiet, composed man working in management circles. She first met him while doing studio work with Queen Latifah's team. He wasn't flashy or industry obsessed. He was calm. And Mary, for the first time in a long time, felt seen, protected. It was the beginning of something new, but it didn't erase the pain. By 1995, Mary J. Blige wasn't just famous, she was entrenched. Her voice was everywhere. Her face was unavoidable. But behind the endorsements, red carpets, and Grammy nods, something else was cementing. Her silent role in the bad boy empire. The music industry was changing, and so was Puff. No longer the scrappy intern hustling studio time. He was now Shawn Puffy Combs, CEO of his own label, Bad Boy Records. He was orchestrating cultural dominance, shaping Biggie's rise, launching Faith Evans, and commanding the attention of an entire generation. He wasn't just a producer anymore. He was a force. And Mary? She was still tethered to him, even if the public didn't always see it. Their relationship was never just business. You could feel it in the way they moved. The interviews, the magazine covers, the way Mary was introduced as Puff's artist. She wasn't just part of the label. She was a symbol of what he could build from nothing. But some say she wasn't just his project, she was his pawn. Mary was there for all of it. The beefs, the deals, the whisper networks. And over the years, questions kept bubbling. What did Mary see? What does she know? What did she survive in those circles?
You know one thing, man, no matter what, Mary never gave her opinion. She sung, she made her appearance, she took pictures, she did her concerts, but she never, I didn't even know she was dating Jodeci people, man. Jodeci was the shit. It was the shit, yeah. Yeah, hey. Them niggas was putting out some, they was putting out some music, man.
Insiders claim Mary was at parties that would later be the subject of court filings and documentaries. She was there when the power plays were being made, and when the masks started to slip. Some even suggest that Mary's silence over the years hasn't been about loyalty, but survival. Through it all, she never said much. Interviews were brief, carefully curated, but you don't live that close to the fire without smelling smoke. And some believe Mary saw more than she'll ever say. The artist that Puff built, the look, the sound, the brand, was never just a label creation. It was a person in pain, a woman being reshaped and repackaged, while carrying secrets that no stylist could cover up. And while Puff soared, collecting accolades and building Bad Boy into a dynasty, Mary's scars were getting deeper. Not all of them physical, some of them from what she couldn't unsee. By the early 2000s, Mary J. Blige had outlasted nearly every man who'd once controlled her narrative. Puff had moved on to building Bad Boy into an empire, but Mary? She was still carrying the weight. The bruises, the contracts, the whispers, all of it. By now, the from Casey had become public knowledge. She spoke about it sparingly, never salaciously, but when she did, the weight of her words cracked the air like glass. She didn't share for headlines. She shared because there was no other way to keep going. And even as the industry cheered her success, she still wasn't safe. Not in love, not in business, not even in herself. The drinking escalated, the back, the mask cracked, and one night, she swears her spirit tried to leave her body. That's when she prayed, not for fame or fortune, but just to stay alive. The music wasn't enough anymore. She needed something deeper, something real. That something came in the form of 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦. At first, he felt like salvation, stable, mature, fatherly. He helped her get clean. He became her manager. He made her feel protected. And Mary, she gave him everything. Her trust, her career, her name. But history has a way of repeating.
What's the biggest thing you learned about yourself?
That I should never doubt my intuition, my instinct. I should definitely love myself more than everybody else does.
Years later, when Mary filed for divorce, she was back at square one, broke, betrayed, and bleeding in private. 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦 wanted 6 figures in monthly support, claimed he had no other income, despite having built his entire lifestyle from her. And still, she didn't stop working. She went on tour, paid off alimony, paid back taxes, released new albums, got nominated for an Oscar, headlined the Super Bowl. Because that's the thing about Mary J. Blige. The world tried to write her story for her, but she always grabbed the pen back. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.
That was an incredible story right there, man. That was, you would never, oh my God, this joint right here. Hey, I gotta subscribe to this channel, man. The Golden Age. Jesus. Man, I think I done found me a new channel, man. Hey, one thing I can say, first of all, let me know if you're an ender. You made it to the end of this video, but one thing I can say is I grew up listening to Mary J. Blige, Faith Evans, Biggie, and all that. You hear Biggie's story. Mary J. Blige's story has always been, to me, a secret. It never jumped out. Like nobody even talked negative about Mary J. Blige. Nobody even said, you know what, Mary does this, she don't do this, she don't do that. No, Mary J. Blige, I didn't even know she was dating the Jodeci people and the dude, man, stop playing, dude. Stop playing with people. You love the girl. Show the world tell the world you in love with this one girl, whatever. Mary J. Blige. Nah, man, I'm just saying, Dude, she was man. She was all that in a bag of tater chip. Mary J. Blige was the #1 hip-hop female singer, period. Name somebody better than her. Faith Evans, I'm sorry. Faith Evans. But the world viewed her as #1, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, man, y'all let me know, man. I can't wait till this hit the channel, man. Mary J. Blige, my hat goes off to you. The type of person you are, I would love to meet you one day. Cause I know one thing, boy. I done learned a lot about you, and I done learned that I need to hunt her down, man. I need to beg her to just to say hi and thank you. Hi and thank you, man. Because Angie Stones passed away. I think that Mary J. Blige, I wasn't even a big fan of yours. I wasn't even a fan, but I studied your music because of you. Because of what you were. You it's almost like when you working with a female in the studio and you're doing hip hop music and they singing, we are trying to do you. That's it. So if we can just get you in there and you train the person, I just shut up and just hit the record button. I don't know, man. Look here. I'm gonna get on up out of here, man. Hey, y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.